Good evening, everybody. Thank you, TSL Foundation and the School of Modern Language and Cultures of the University of Hong Kong for this kind invitation to speak. And it was a really wonderful initiative to explore this topic of creativity. When I was given the topic of creativity, I first looked up the Webster Dictionary to find out what the real definition of creativity means. So when I looked up the dictionary, it just said creativity is the ability to think of new things or think of new ideas. But in fact, I also looked up the web on the precise definition. There have been a lot of definitions about creativities. There have been 100 of different interpretations of what creativity is all about. And it's ranging from about creative process to creative products to creative ideas. So there's no specific definition of creativity actually. But no matter what, I think for my understanding, there seems to be one common characteristic about this word creativity. And this common characteristic is the word to be different. In fact, I have noticed that the word creativity has come a lot of situations that making a difference is what creativity is all about. In fact, if you look at Beethoven's creativity was driven by his wish to differentiate his style from Mozart. Or even the Beatles' music was creatively different with its non-conforming sound in that era of music. I think that many of you have carried Walkman before. Maybe the Walkman is a totally different lifestyle in music listening when it was launched. So it's all talking about making a difference in that particular era or in that particular industry. Lately, even the Apple's iPhone, when you look at the Apple's iPhone, actually what it was trying to do is to differentiate itself by revolutionize the communication industry. And I guess some of you may heard about the Branson of Virgin Air. Branson has tried to creatively differentiate itself from the other conventional airlines by having a different service standards and unconventional methods of flying. So all in all, if you talk about creativity, I think making a difference is the one common characteristic. In fact, if you look at the Apple organization, the word think different in Apple has been very prevalent in the organization. Those are the two most important words in the Apple organization. So for that matter, creativity is not that sophisticated. If you think about it, just making a difference. So it's not that sophisticated as many would perceive it to be. I looked up some of the researchers, and some of the researchers said that if you look at the researchers like James Kaufman and Bagatto, they said that creativity can be classified into 4 levels. The first level is the mini C. The mini C means that you are transforming just some of the learning process, which is very basic, which is sort of a personal insights about creativity. The second level is the little C, and little C is the everyday problem solving. I will talk a little bit about this everyday problem solving. In fact, just everyday problem solving could be a very creative process as well. And then there is the level called the Pro C. Hello. And the Pro C is basically is exhibited by people who are vocationally creative, who are professionally creative. People like the musicians or people like the sculptors, they are professionally creative, so they are the Pro C level. And then, of course, you talk about the big C. The big C level of creativity, you're talking about the great ideas, talking about the remarkable breakthrough in the field. So you have seen that there are 4 levels of creativities as defined by the researchers. In the case of my creative journey with Café de Coral, like 大家樂, my creative journey is almost 100% lead to C, because I'm just talking about the basic solutions to everyday business challenges. I'm just trying to solve everyday problem on a daily basis. So it's a sort of a lead to C kind of a creativity. In Café de Coral, we have to create new products. We have to think of new operation logistics, or even new promotional programs, or TV commercials, or even new shop designs. Those are the lead to C kind of level of creativity, because they are just looking at solutions to everyday business problems. As we all know, the creativity process involves 2 processes. One is thinking, and the other one is producing. If you have just an idea, but do not act on them, you are only imaginative, but you are not creative. So being creative, you have to act on your creative ideas. Once you act on your creative ideas, then you can be called creative. If you do not work on your creative ideas, you are just imagining. So in order to have a better appreciation of the value of creativity, I would like to go back to the basics of creativities. I would ask some of the basic questions, some of the core questions, like why, what, how, and who. And those are the W's of creativities. And I will try to use many of the examples in caterings, in the restaurant business, to look at these issues about why, what, how, and who of creativity. The first question is the why. Why do we have to be creative? In other words, why do we have to make a difference, especially in the business world? Why do we have to be so creative to deal with the business challenges? So it reminded me of a dinner reception I went to a restaurant a month ago. It has 13 courses a dinner with a menu ranging from 小籠包 to 餐蛋子. But this menu that you've seen here, although it's 13 courses, you're talking about $2,180 per person. And that was in Hong Kong. Of course, I did not pay for that meal. But it was very expensive for that 13-course meal. And many of the items you commonly know, 小籠包 and 餐蛋子, but it costs $2,000 per person. And just the 餐蛋子, in the middle section, just that 餐蛋子, if you order it a la carte, it costs you $320. Of course, you can get it in Café de Coral for $30 and less, and comes in with a milk tea. So the reason for this pricey menu, this restaurant is in Wan Chai. The reason for this pricey menu is pure creativity in its utmost, because what they are serving is called molecular gastronomy. In Chinese, it's called 分子料理. This molecular gastronomy is a new way of cooking. It's the most creative process in cooking. It's the ultimate fantasy in cooking, because it's combining science and technology, and combining science and cooking to create some of the finest cuisines. So from a technical point of view, from an artistic point of view, and from a social point of view, this is one of the most creative cooking process. The final products include caviar made of olive oil, transparent ravioli, mango egg yolk, and crab ice cream. So the possibilities are endless. And it's very creative and most creative because it has turned the new and imaginative ideas into reality. He has found a new way in cooking because he has found hidden patterns and he has revolutionized traditional cooking and transformed dining into a surprising emotional and sensory experience. So now you can understand why they can charge you $320 for a 餐蛋子. Because they are offering a sensory and emotional experience more than just the taste and more than just the product that it was offering. And I guess after watching this video, you can understand why some of the things that some of the best salesmen in the United States would say. If you try to sell a piece of steak, it's better to sell the sizzle than to sell the steak. So creativity is all about inspiration, aspirations, and imagination. I think what the chef here in the molecular gastronomy is doing is they trying to use the technology and try to break it down and to recreate it into a very inspirational and imaginative products. So basically, creativity is all about generating value. So one of the reasons why we need creativity is, first of all, creativity creates a value. It creates a value or it regenerates a hidden value, which was previously undiscovered. Those values can be tangible or it can be intangible, or simply, just like what I just shown you, is just an experience. That's one of the reasons when you go to Starbucks, you're willing to pay $30 for a cup of coffee. It's not the coffee because of its taste, but because Starbucks has successfully created the experience of a third place. It's created the experience of a home away from home. So you go to Starbucks not for the coffee, but you go for the creative experience. The second reason for creativity is to create an edge. When I mean an edge, is a competitive edge. When Branson of Virgin Air uses creative marketing, he used it to earn a competitive edge in the airline business. He has added value and services and differentiating his business from the rest of the competitions. Because without those creative competitive edge, he's just selling a commodity product in the commodity market. The third reason for creativity is, of course, is the best, is to even create a market on its own. The iPhone is a remarkable example in creating a market out of thin air because it has revolutionized the world as to how we communicate, and it has put the computer power into the hands of more than 1 billion people around the world. In the case of Café de Coral, we try to be creative in order to create value, to create a competitive edge, as well as to create an untapped market. So in Café de Coral, creativity and innovation has always been our driving force. We have to be creative, not because we are smarter than others. We have to be creative because it is a matter of survival and growth. Like in Tagalog, as in Café de Coral, everybody knows that we sell over 100 items on the menu every day. If we do not have to be that hardworking, I don't think we need to. But it's just that it's a matter of survival that we need to be creative to create so many products on our menu. We even have to sell 4 segments on a day, like breakfast, lunch, tea, and dinner. So it's a matter of survival, it's a matter of creating value that we have to sell over 100 items on the menu. At the same time, we also have to convert our restaurant operation into a self-service mode. When we started out 45 years ago, it was just like any other Chatantan. But because we have to differentiate ourselves from the rest of the restaurant business, we developed a self-service mode, like a fast food restaurants nowadays that you have seen. And this creates a competitive edge that we can differentiate ourselves from the rest of the restaurant business. And in fact, we venture into the public housing estates in the 1980s. We venture into new territories. As you probably know, in 1980s, there's no fast food restaurants in the new territories. We are the first fast food restaurants that go into Sha Tin. We are the first fast food restaurants that go into Yunnan. At that time, even McDonald's wasn't even exist in those new territories. So we venture into those areas just to create an untapped market. So creativity needs us to survive and to sustain our growth, because we are selling Chinese fast food to a Chinese population. To me, selling Chinese fast food to a Chinese population is like selling ice to Eskimos. You have to be creative. Now, the second question is, we all know the necessity to be creative. The second question is, in what area we need to be creative? What are the areas that need to be creative so as we have the most effective impact in a commercial sense? When I look at these questions, of course, the product-oriented creativity is the easiest and the obvious route to take. When it comes to the area of innovations, everybody would think of a major breakthrough in product. A major product breakthrough would differentiate ourselves and stay ahead of the pack. That's what Sony Walkman has done. It was a typical example at the time. And I guess you can say the same with the fish burger in McDonald's. When McDonald's launched their fish burger way back in the early 80s, it was considered to be a breakthrough in the product innovations in McDonald's history. So the product-oriented creativity is a very impactful and easier way to be creative. The other area to be creative is the innovation or technology-driven creativities. Products like Nokia, IBM, Sony have all come up with the best technologically driven innovations. But honestly, to me, I think our history is full of innovations which we thought is really cool ideas, but the customers did not really care. So if I have to pick an area to prioritize our creative efforts, I would always take the customer's perspective as the most effective area to be creative. Creativity, to me, is all about user-oriented thinking. The best innovations or the most creative products are the ones which connect with the people's lives. You think about the smartphones, you think about the octopus cards. Those are all user-oriented innovations, which are highly valuable and relevant to our daily lives. So only innovations that focus on user experience would result in the world-class products and services. I guess a lot of people will always put Café de Coral in comparisons with McDonald's, because Café de Coral is the only chain in the world that can outcompete McDonald's in the local market. The other local chain that can outcompete McDonald's is the Jollibee in the Philippines. So in Café de Coral, we put much emphasis on listening to the market. We create the services and products and experience according to what the customers really want, so that they can remember us for over a long, long time. If you look at the comparison between McDonald's and Café de Coral, McDonald's always serve a very limited menu because they always pride themselves to be marketing driven. When I say marketing driven, is no matter you like their burgers or not, they just keep on selling you the burgers by using very strong marketing campaign. So they are marketing driven. Whereas in Café de Coral, we are not marketing driven, we are market driven. In other words, we just sell whatever the market perceive to be most popular or perceived to be what they want. So over the years, because that's what the market wants, we create products like the congee, like the siu mei, like the sizzling steak, or even clay pot rice, the 煲仔飯, and the pork chop rice, the 焗豬扒飯. Because that's what being driven by the market. And at the end of the day, we have to sell over 100 items on our menu list. There are numerous humble examples of our Café de Coral listening to the customers and the marketplace for innovations. Because creative innovations or inspirations all come from the customers. If you recall that one of the most popular products is the personalized hot pots, which is the very well-known, I would say one of the better-known hot pot that we have is the Dongxingban for wok. I think the creative idea is not so much the hot pot idea itself. The creative ideas comes from we have to think through all the logistics. We have to create a personalized utensils. We have to think of how to ignite the fire, how to get the right ingredients. We even have to think of the logistics as to when the customers finish the meals, how to turn off the fire and all that. So those are the creative process that we have to think through. At the same time, another product like the winter melon. Again, the winter melon product is not a very creative idea. It's, the inspiration just very simple. You just copy from another Chinese restaurant. But the creative ideas come from the size and the shape of the winter melon. In order to create this product, we have to think a year ahead of time. We have to talk to the farmers a year ahead of time so that they can come up with a small winter melon that is personalized in size and shape. So those are the creativity process that we have to go through in order to come up with this personalized winter melon product. And same with the Japanese eel rice. Again, the Japanese eel rice is a very expensive item. If you go to a Japanese restaurant, you are talking about $80 or $100 for Japanese eel rice. But if you go to, when we launched this Japanese eel rice way back in 20 years ago, it was about $26. The reason that we can do that is because we use the same eel as the Japanese did, but we just use the end part. The Japanese just want the middle part of the eel, and we can use the end part, which is not very good looking, but at the end of the day, we are making it more affordable to the customers. So those are the creative thinking process where we have to go through to come up with the new products according to the wants and the needs of the customers. So creativity is all about enhancing value, but at the end of the day, we also have to create relevance to the customers. We have to stay relevant and we have to remain relevant. So we have to use the user-oriented thinking even in our marketing campaign. When we launched the Cup 100 Octopus card for the convenience and the repeat patronage of our customers, we just want to make sure that the customers will perceive our creativities to be the most convenient and to be the most relevant products or promotion ideas. So there's just one statement. When you run your business, let your customers run your business. Listen to the customers rather than yourself to create ideas. Having said that, I would even go one step further by saying that the best creativities are the ones which goes beyond the customer's expectation. The best creativities are the ones that win the hearts in your creativities. It goes beyond the customer's expectation, then you would win the hearts. What I did with Café de Coral in year 2014 was the launch of our 4G design concept. When I launched this restaurant design, what I was trying to do is I'm trying to offer a hotel coffee shop environment while still charging a fast food pricing. So we are doing a design which is beyond their expectations. They're going to a fast food restaurant, but they never expect it will be a restaurant setting like a coffee shop in a hotel. So we have, at the end of the day, we win the hearts of our customers. In fact, we have elevated design standards of all the restaurants or all the fast food restaurants in the entire restaurant industries in Hong Kong. I guess you can say the same with the creative launch of the Douhang $1 chicken. It has taken the customers by surprise. It has taken the customers by a pleasant surprise and wins the hearts of 1 million customers. So in today's commercial world, I think that the commercial creativity must look beyond the manufacturing position. It cannot just look at the basic human needs. In the past, creative products can just be fulfilling the basic human needs or the basic functional needs, like a battery. I guess the better thing is to look at creative products that appeals to the emotional needs, like a Walkman. But better still, I think the creative products in this globalized world should address the universal human aspirations. Aspirations such as the shared experience, shared value, shared passions. Examples like the Starbucks. Starbucks creativity is not about its coffee, but it has successfully created a shared experience and passion among its customers that cannot be found elsewhere. I just came across an interview of a well-known, the world's best designer, a Chinese designer. And when he was interviewed, this guy is called Yao Yinggai. He is the chief designer of Luanxiang. And he is now known as the world's best Chinese designer. And when he come to about citing the best example of creativity in Hong Kong, he has cited the example of the Hong Kong Cha Chan Tang. It was very surprising to me for a technical person to think of Cha Chan Tang as the most creative products in Hong Kong. But the reasons for him to say that, he said that Cha Chan Tang has blended the Hong Kong way of lifestyle with the East-West eating culture and the local community atmosphere in perfect harmony. And he even goes on to say that in Cha Chan Tang, you can find the creative spirit and relationship between man and man, man and equipment with equipment in perfect harmony. So those are the human spirit aspirations that you can find nowhere in the world, which created a shared value or shared passions. And those are the best creativities or the best creative products that you can find. So no wonder when Revlon had this statement, he said that we sell cosmetics in the factory, but we sell hopes at the shop. So this is what cosmetics is all about. Now, I would like to move on to the $64 question. And that is the question of how. How do you, or how can you best approach or tackle creativities, especially in the business world. I often heard people about, like if they want to get on a new business or they want to set on to a new idea, they need the real big bang ideas. But I can say to you that creativity is not about a big bang ideas. A lot of people think that creativity is an idea that no one has ever thought of. But I more and more came to learn that most creative entrepreneurs do not begin with brilliant ideas. Most of the creative entrepreneurs, they just constantly in search of excellence. They just try to discover or even copy or even try to improve on someone else's ideas. So they are in fact copycats. But they have been such a perfectionist, they have kept on constantly in search of modifying others' ideas, in search of excellence and improving on it. Examples like Samsung, Alibaba, WhatsApp, and they are constantly in search of excellence, and they came up with much better creative ideas. Even Bill Gates of Microsoft and Steve Jobs, they joke among themselves. They both copy their ideas from Xerox. I recall reading articles about the Amazon.coms, and they are saying that their creative ideas is constantly experiment as a source of creativities. They always try to go down on blind areas. They're trying to plant seeds. And they even try to increase the number of experiments to 1,000 so that you increase the number of innovations. So creativity is talk about constantly in search of excellence or constantly trying to improve on someone else's ideas. So this is what incremental innovation is all about. Incremental innovation is discover an idea, copy an idea, experiment with an idea, improve on an idea, then you get an idea breakthrough. I just finished reading a book by Peter Sims, and the book's title is called Breakthrough Ideas Emerge from Small Discoveries. Even Jack Welch said that it's okay to copy. So from inventors to songwriters to entrepreneurs, they all understand this process. They use experiments, they use trial and errors, they use little bets. They gradually build up to a breakthrough ideas. Even Thomas Edison, the guy who invented the light bulb, he said that I'm not discouraged by failures. Every wrong attempt discarded is just one small step forward. So in fact, he has experimented 9,000 times before he invented the light bulb. And even for creative musicians like Beethoven, same with his music creativities. He began with small possibilities. He made a lot of small little bets, hundreds of corrections and changes, and gradually he differentiated his music or his style from Mozart's. If you look at the catering business, you look at Ding Tai Fung on the Xiao Long Bao. In fact, the Xiao Long Bao is such good taste, not because of his own inventions, but they have keep on improving on the way to fold the Xiao Long Bao. So they come up with this optimum folding methods. They fold the Xiao Long Bao into 18 folds, 18 zip, so that they have the best bite and the best fold and the best appearance. When you look at the Xiao Long Bao in Ding Tai Fung, they always insist on the 18 folds. And that's what creative idea is all about, in search of excellence. In the case of our Café de Coral products, we all use the same ideas, like in curry beef, in our Gà Liao Lam. We always in search of the best recipes and proportion. So at the end of the day, we developed the咖喱牛腩, the curry beef, with the optimum portioning of 4-3-2. In other words, 4 pieces of 牛腩, 3 pieces of 薯仔, and 2 pieces of 牛筋. So if you cannot find the same ingredients, you call me. So I recall in any business, it's not about strategy, it's not about just a big bang ideas. It's all about fine-tuning your executions. As what the ex-chairman of HSBC has once said, Mr. John Bond has once said, he said, in any business success, 10% is only on strategy. 90% is on fine-tuning your execution. So I can think that you can say the same thing about creativities. So as I approach the last section of this lecture, and as a business person myself, I cannot help to ask the last questions, which is the last W on creativities. That is the question of who kills creativities in the business world. In the past, Hong Kong has always been the world's fierce economies and Asia's most vibrant and creative cities. But lately, as we mature, we seem to have lost that steam against our neighboring countries in terms of design innovations, in terms of the overall creative spirit. And why is it? I would venture with a provocative statement. I would say that modern management practices are the invisible hands that kills creativities. Modern management, as it is known today, has always been conceived as a true science. And this is where the problem lies. Because everybody thinks that management is a true science, so they develop standardized job descriptions, they develop the assembly lines, they master financial controls, they come up with organizational bureaucracy. So the employees disconnected from the marketplace and lost the emotional bonds from the final products. They even disconnected from their own creativities. In fact, if you recall, this so-called modern management was developed way back in the 19th century. It was developed by Frederick Winslow Taylor in the 19th century, and he was the father of modern management. This father of modern management believed that business organization should be a bureaucracy with division of labor, standardized job descriptions, and reporting hierarchy. I hope that one day when you go into the business world, you become business leaders, you should stay away from this so-called modern management. Because modern management is always about over-managed and under-led. It's operating under a principle of fear. Employees are feared to be fired, fear of pay cut, fear of demotions. Employees are hired to work, they are hired not to think, and they have assumed to have no level of intelligence. So we need to stop managing, we need to start leading. I think that we always need to get rid of bureaucracies and tear down the boundaries and take away the boss elements. I think if you read some of the recent articles about servant leadership, that's what it's all about. You need to use the collective wisdoms of everyone. I always reminded myself in the restaurant business, because in the restaurant business, there's this counterforce of the yin-yang. Because the creative chef is always the fire elements, the yang elements. And the management system is always the water elements, which is the yin elements. We're always talking about the control, analysis, and reports. So we need to strike the right balance so that we won't stifle the creativity process of the creative chefs. But unfortunately, many of the companies that I've seen in Hong Kong or around the world, many of the companies still operate in the 19th century. They still operate in the management prisons of the industrial age. We're talking about too much management, too little freedom, too much hierarchy, too little community, too much opinion, and too little passions, and too much rules and regulations, and too little rooms for creativities. So the irony is this. Although we are sitting in the 21st century business technology, we are still embracing the 20th century management process. And we are employing, in fact, the 19th century management principles. So this is truly an irony. And in fact, our bureaucratic organization is just like a dinosaur because it slows you down. In fact, if you look at one of the management guru, Jack Welch, when he took over the company GE in 1981, there were 25,000 managers, 500 senior managers, 130 vice presidents. So what he has done is he has cut down all the layers and direct the creative energies toward the marketplace. I would say the same with Café de Coral. We have 20,000 workforce in Hong Kong. So I've been always consciously trying to break up this 20,000 workforce into small units of self-contained business units so that every shop managers can be a business owner in themselves so that they can engage in their own decisions relevant to the customers and relevant to the marketplace. In the coming decades, all the baby boomers like myself, in fact I have retired, so they will gradually retire. And Generation X will succeed as the business and government leaders. And Generation Y, I guess most of the audience here, would become the major workforce. And this Generation Y is in fact the most creative and energetic generations because they are motivated by inspirations. However, most of the employers being the baby boomers and being the Generation X, they are lost in working with this new wave of working force. So let me tell you, I think we need to manage less in order to unleash the creative energy in our future generations. Because in this brave new world, in the 21st century, it should be leaders over managers, freedom over control, and community over bureaucracy. Just like Jack Welch has said, what we are looking for are leaders who can emerge and energize and excite rather than depress and control. So when it comes to creativity, most of our enlightened leaders should know that we need to have creative ideas from all sources, whether it's come from the employees or come from the competitors or come from the associates or partners. Companies will suffer when the boss comes up with all the creative ideas. So we must have the benefits of all our employees' ideas because we create people excellence and they in turn would create product excellence. So in the final analysis, may I pledge to you that inventions and creativities originate from being curious with wild possibilities and explore in the unknown. And we should always have an open mind with all the life experiences and play with all the ideas, and to be brave enough to go down into black alleys. As one of the noted inventor, Alan Kay, has once said, the best way to predict the future is to invent it. So after all, life is a creative process. So no wonder the words of Steve Jobs are so enlightening when it comes with creativity. He always said, stay hungry, stay foolish. This is in fact the essential part or the essential spirit of creativity is all about. So in the world of creativities, this is exactly what we should have done. Despite what we have seen, despite what we have heard, we must be prepared to look in all directions, to see things beneath the surfaces, and to think out of the box, and not to dwell on past experiences. As Robert Kennedy once said, some see things as they are and ask why. I prefer to see things as they might be and ask, why not? The good news is, with this globalized world, we are in the best of time for creativities. With the high-speed web technology, customers are much more closer, the market is much more transparent, innovations is moving from a mysterious black box to a transparent glass box. So true creativities are no longer bounded by what is. Instead, they can dream of what could be. As President Kennedy once said, we need men who dream of things that never were. So on that note, I hope that some of you in the audience will be the future creative business leaders, and I hope that you can one day dream of things that never were. Thank you.